Yo, what's going on, y'all? This your man, Marcus A. Brown. First, let me start off by saying shout out to the Passport Bros. As many of you know, I've been actively involved in supporting and contributing to the Manosphere for about 10 years now. Everything from MGTOW to MRAs to SYSBM, Edmore. I even supported a lot of PUA channels even when they weren't necessarily supporting me. And now we have the Passport Bros, which is a trendy hashtag for men in general, or black men in particular, who are exploring their options as it relates to dating and family and marriage, recreational sex, aka sex tourism, economic advantages, and just expanding their horizons overall. Because like I tell brothers, especially people who haven't been out of their hometown, haven't been out of the state, haven't been out of their country, there's nothing comparable to being able to step out of an environment that you've been subjected to your entire life or the majority of your life, and being able to have firsthand experiences on making connections with different people, and being able to reshape your perspective looking back into the environment that you're gonna have to go back home to at some point. If you have the privilege in your life as an American, as a black man in America in particular, to step out of an environment that you've known forever that does not serve you well, then it would behoove you to at some point take that opportunity and get the fuck up out the crib. If you could do it at least once, you would be a fool not to. So yeah, with that being said, today I've decided to break my silence in these YouTube streets and briefly share my thoughts on international travel and the Passport Bros in 2023.
Basically what you're saying is you not on your shit unless you tolerating the worst quality woman that you could possibly attract, and it has to be on American soil. I mean, I'm just saying, bro, like, get out of Chicago. Get out of this bubble, man. It's a bubble, bro.
I can't rephrase this shit no other way. When I was out of town, bro, when I was out the country, I was talking and kicking it with brothers that's living extended amounts of time out of the country, living out their dreams. If I would have been smart when I was going through the back and forth getting laid off, I would have did the same shit. But no, what was I doing? I was not tricking off in a DR. I was tricking off in a relationship with single mothers. I work my ass off. That's why you don't see me nowhere. I don't go out to these clubs. Every time y'all ask me to out somewhere, I get invited to clubs and parties, all type of shit. Every one of them dollars, bro. Every single George Washington bill. I'm looking at that shit like, how could this be better spent in another country, in a different economy, or just under better laws where I could do what the fuck I want to do and live how the fuck I want to live? And I can't get to think that way unless they get the fuck away from the crib, bro. Stop spending your money at the crib. Worry about your goddamn self. Stop helping other motherfuckers that ain't helping you, and treat yourself to something nice.
Some of these chicks is living better than the niggas going down there tricking on them. So like, it's some things I could just hear say and I'm like, no. And trust me, they don't want to go to no America. They good where they at. They family is there. They friends is there. They good. I can't really show that to motherfuckers. Like, you gotta meet people and talk to them and see that shit yourself. And when you start meeting people like that, you gonna get humbled real quick. And you're gonna realize that, you know, it's just like being in the States. It's different levels to this all over the world.
Marcus Brown, man, shout out to you, bro. He actually did a video back in the day in the DR, and it inspired me to actually continue with my YouTube channel. I might not already had it, I'm not sure, but it was such a good, well-edited video, man. It was probably one of the first well-edited videos I seen a brother do on traveling, right? And it was real good, and I think it motivated me to go to the DR, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I had already went to Brazil when I saw the video. But shout out to you, bro. Shout out to you, man. Can't wait to see you when you come out here, bro.
The topic of men traveling abroad for love, sex, economic opportunities, and life-changing experiences is not a new conversation. As a matter of fact, some of what's openly talked about and celebrated in the Manosphere now wasn't so welcomed in this space just a few years ago, when myself and many others were advising brothers to just get their passports and explore the world. There's been a lot of loose terms and hashtags thrown around in reference to this same situation that's been growing over the years, from the Black Wall of Silence to Save Yourself Black Man. You got MWIOC, you got Passport Gang, Red Pill Retreat, the Black Man's Options, Black Man Travels, Black Men Escaping the Matrix, Blue Book Gentlemen, Enlightened Western Men, All of these different names and hashtags and movements, they're all different in their own way, but they all ultimately address the same issue, which is the state of the data market and the destabilization of the nuclear family in Western society. And today, here we are with a hashtag that stuck, the Passport Bros. And granted, there are many different men that are traveling for many different reasons, so I know that term is being used very loosely nowadays. But I gotta say, this, I think, is a good one. It's a damn good one. I truly believe that it's going to continue to grow and it's going to be around for a while, but whether it reaches critical mass or if it gets suppressed like many other quote-unquote movements, I've been around long enough to know that there will be something else. The energy of what's happening is not going away. Essentially, what's happening in the West is the powers that be have been working in overtime to absolutely demonize and destroy the male spirit as we know it, right? All of this toxic masculinity, these patriarchy, misogyny narratives. Notice all that is generally a one-way street when being discussed by the major political, educational, and cultural institutions. There's no tolerance for conversations on toxic femininity. You feel me? It's insulting to even insinuate that there can even be such a thing, right? There's no fight against misandry, the hatred of men, and there's no acknowledgement of flaws and consequences of matriarchal environments such as communities overrun by single motherhood and the male roles of protection and provision being appropriated by the state. Getting back on subject, what are my thoughts on the Passport Bros? I think y'all already know. I fuck with it. I've been with it. I kind of bowed out of the YouTube space, especially when the Manosphere had a lot of infighting going on and people really wasn't trying to hear this message. But trust and believe, I'm always in the comment section. I'm always donating. I'm still rocking with everybody that's been rocking with me since day one. And that's regardless of whatever your angle is in the Manosphere. And quite honestly, I've said this a lot in people's comment sections. I feel vindicated right now. I never had to get on here with a bunch of courses and counseling to sell to men. And that's not to knock those who do, but there was a time when people acted like we couldn't coexist, and we can. I've always preached just being pro options for men, staying in your own lane, me staying in my own lane. But when it comes to getting brothers to travel, I've been pushing for this moment since at least 2015. And there's been brothers making these moves way before me or any other YouTubers been thought of. What we see unfolding at this time is the same conversation being had, but this time without as much of the infighting within the Manosphere. And this time we get to see all of the receipts, all right? We get to see the receipts on American men traveling abroad for leisure. We get to see the receipts on men living abroad as expats. We get to see the receipts on tourism. We get to see the receipts of men's success stories with starting businesses and nuclear families abroad. And last but not least, people all over the world, not just in the Manosphere, people all over the globe right now, G, through social media. Everybody following this situation around the world gets to see the real-time receipts of the data market, this overinflated celebrity influencer hyper-consumerism type shit, and the family court systems in Western societies being the absolute ripoff that it is. So if you're sitting on the internet mad at the Passport Bros or mad at the Manosphere, I tell my female friends this all the time. You think you have a problem with guys right now? Y'all, this ain't shit. Our daughters are going to be growing up with an entirely different breed of men. They're not going to have any tolerance for what guys have had tolerance for in the past. Hey, one of my favorite videos, I always tell people to look this up. Go look up Barbarossa's Post-Feminism Man. That's got to be the most classic old school Manosphere videos that I still listen to this day. It's like 10 or 11 years old now, but go listen to that video and tell me that that's not what we seeing today. The Gen Zs and the Generation Alphas coming after them, that's going to be a whole different breed. The divorce babies, the babies who grew up with red pill content. I didn't grow up with stuff like that. The generations who will grow up not only with Passport Bro type influence, but globalist propaganda influence. They're not going to limit themselves to one particular plot of land if they don't have to. I've met brothers that are taking their sons on international vacations just so they can travel before they have a girlfriend. They're like, look, you're going to go to different places to see different things before you have a girlfriend. Once you know what's out there, you can do what you want to do. You're on your own. I'm not saying everything will be perfect moving forward either, because as we travel, there will be some culture mixing going on, for better and for worse. But there are men and women. Let's stop doing this battle of the sexes shit. There are people that are finding what they're looking for. Whatever it is you're looking for, you're going to find it. If you want to find love, you can find that. If you want to find business opportunities, you can find that. If you want to find tourism on some get your groove back type shit, that's not just something that sisters and middle-aged white women are flying to Jamaica for anymore. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing it in a place that's legal with consenting adults, that's your business. We're also getting the receipts on a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of contradictions with this conversation of sex work. If you just take a look down the timeline of cultural subversion here within a few generations, we have went from promoting monogamy and traditional relationships to shaming it. As a society, we've went from saying don't slut shame to now shaming wives. We're shaming women that want to be somewhat traditional and be happy in a relationship with a man, y'all. That's crazy. If you peep game, G, a lot of Western societies very much embrace promoting sex work, so long as it doesn't push past a certain threshold of male satisfaction. How many females are promoting explicit OnlyFans content and it's no problem? It's just super casual, right? Now with the internet, you could pay a chick to give you all boobs over the internet. If you want to pay a stripper to dance on you and give you all boobs and probably send you home with a bunch of dirt and glitter and sweat on your clothes, you could pay a chick to just grind on you long as you're not paying a fuck. At that point, now you're crossing the line and that's prostitution, that's illegal. Why? Because the full legalization of prostitution deregulates the sexual marketplace. You go in an environment where this is legal and it's not shamed, you don't have the same type of male thirst, you don't have the same type of mind games and spitting game and all this manipulation just to get an understanding of each other. A lot of the games that are going on here, that goes away. You know you could get sex if you want it. I know I could get sex if I want it. Let's stop playing games with each other. What are we really doing here? Let's really get to know each other. Let's really see if we like each other. When we have a society where so many people have been socialized to just accept and embrace this lopsided double standard as it relates to dating and sexuality, it gets in the way of a lot of communication, a lot of relationship building, and it doesn't do away with biological imperatives for men or women. It just drives it underground or elsewhere. But like I said, now we're beginning to see the receipts on all of this. We're beginning to even the playing field. So I want to say I told you so. I want to say I knew this would come. But I also have to acknowledge that this is mostly due to a series of events and circumstances that just so happen to form that perfect storm that I couldn't have predicted myself. You know what I'm saying? The way that this conversation has evolved is beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. But in hindsight, it shouldn't be hard for anybody with equal compassion for men and women to see exactly how we got here. You can see it in the real world, you can see it in social media, the dating apps, how that's altered men and women's ability to socialize with each other in person compared to the internet. That has been a double-edged sword for a while now. Then you got the demonization of every single male space. Any kind of conversation centered around the welfare of men, or if it's just not complimentary to women, is immediately shunned. You feel me? You got the big political divide when it comes to men and women and voting and community issues. This process of educational and political institutions champion all of the woke issues that serve to destabilize families and communities more than unite them. That's another contributing factor to this. We get to see this animosity towards men resurface every election year. We really got to see the face of it with black men in particular, with Ice Cube trying to sit down at the table and advocate for political action in favor of the black community. And then we had the rise, and last year, unfortunately, the passing of Kevin Samuels, rest in peace. A lot of brothers have already said this, but that was really the critical turning point, I would say, for so many of us to see the significant amount of misandry that was on full display by the female population that hated this man. You feel me? They hated a black man with a classy and professional image and a tough love approach because they didn't like how he talked. They didn't like his tone. They didn't like his realism. But yet we're expected to acquiesce and celebrate that same type of tone coming from full-blown misandrous. We all got to see the receipts on that. It's really sad, but through his passing, we got to see that they don't hate people in their own communities that really cause damage in their families and their communities as much as they hated a well-dressed man on the internet because of the way he talked. And they thought it was over with, but again, like I said, the male energy is not going away. After Kevin Samuels, what happened? Andrew Tate enters the chat, who is still with us and going through whatever he's going through with the powers that be for those who are paying attention. But I don't really know what's going on with that. I just know the influence that Andrew Tate has had on men in such a short time, and I recognize the pattern of male identity expressing itself on a mainstream level. No matter how many heads you try to cut off of this hydra, the hydra remains. And the hydra grows. And it's apparent to me at this point that there are many, not all, but many women on a micro level and many governments and corporations on a macro level in Western societies that are just too blind or too drunk off their own power to recognize that this game is gonna come to an end pretty soon. I got people that's close to me that's on both sides. Some people are asking me to help them get passports that never wanted to hear that shit when I was telling them about it years ago. And then on the other hand, I got some people that's like, we need to stop this. We need to protect our women and yada, yada, yada. To that, I gotta say, this is becoming something that's not even in our hands as black men anymore. Our job was to explore options, travel the world, and reestablish a more positive or complimentary image of black men around the globe. And I think we've done that. We'll continue to work on our image, but we're looking at an entirely different situation right now because you had so many Western women that resorted to shaming and trying to mischaracterize what's going on. And in the process of trying to make American men look bad once again on a global stage, a lot of American women ended up insulting foreign women. So now the women from other countries have entered the chat and they clapping back at Western women for their own reasons. Like, who the fuck you keep calling poor? Who the fuck is y'all calling uneducated? Who the fuck are y'all calling weak and submissive? And now they're beginning to see why American men are not interested in putting up with American women at the crib. So I don't know what they think is supposed to happen. What did you think was gonna happen? Now, in conclusion, as I wrap this rant up, it was nice talking my shit. I haven't done this in a while, since 2020, talking about how dumb of a year that was. I'm gonna leave y'all with this, because I know this is trending, and I know that it's especially caught wildfire in the so-called black community. I'm not here to bash black women. I don't like when people do that. I think that the issues in the West transcend race, and it's not just black women, alright? I'm of the opinion that black people in general, black men and black women, have both been the face of a lot of good and a lot of bad in Western society. Oftentimes we tend to bring attention to certain stereotypes or certain subcultures, and it's always under the radar until we start doing it. Ratchetness and baby mama culture and I don't need no man and I don't need no NIGGA, that was all sisters for the past few decades. But they ain't the only ones, and now that's pretty common among a lot of different nationalities and races and ethnicities. Same thing with the Pookie and the Ray Ray stereotypes of black men. That ain't just black men right now. That's a lot of young American men in society today. Conversely, it's not just black men that are considered passport bros. It's not just black men that are expats. It's not just black men that have explored sex tourism destinations. But like I said before, for whatever reason, it's always under the radar, or it's always cool and given a pass until brothers start doing it and it gains traction, and now all of a sudden, it's a big problem. It's a big epidemic and it needs to be addressed, and it's trafficking and abuse and oppression and all this other stuff. Where was all that energy when Stella was getting her groove back and when all other men from other nationalities and other ethnicities have been exploring the world and exploring their options for decades? Where was that energy? Where were these talking points? Where were these false concerns at? The people that constantly fuel these battle of the sexes conversations refuse to look at the root of the problem. They looking at passport bros and incels and toxic masculinity and all these buzzwords, and they're just unwilling or unable to acknowledge the legal ramifications, the barriers that's being put in place that's getting in the way of people even engaging with each other, let alone dating. They're not paying attention to the economic factors that's playing a role. And every single time we get a public figure with a big enough platform to shed light on these issues, you got people and organizations that want to rally together to cancel them, that want to shame and censor them, and to add insult to injury, lie about them. How many times do we have to hear that if a man isn't putting up with the toxic bullshit in his current environment, then he has to be weak? Or he is intimidated by a strong, independent woman, or he need to step up his game, or he's controlling? And how many times has that all been proven to be cap? Lies, bullshit. They just keep repeating the same cap over and over and over and forcing lazy and weak-minded people to believe it. Again, we looking at all the receipts now. And from what we can see, based off of men actually going other places, starting families, starting businesses, having fun, whether it's for a day or for a month or whatever the case is, these men are not looking for control. Generally speaking, we're not looking for control. We're looking for cooperation and a little bit of respect. That's it. I would argue that men from America are some of the most equal rights minded people on the planet. Do you know how anti-woman other parts of the world can be? Listen to some of the women that are telling their stories instead of trying to talk over them or try to ignore what they're saying. There's brothers that's going to other countries and treating the women better than they're accustomed to. The people that's hating on the passport bros aren't talking about that. They're not talking about the quote-unquote strong women in other countries. Look, man, nobody wants a weak partner, male or female, whatever. I don't think anybody wants a weak partner. You want a strong partner. You want somebody strong that has your back. You feel me? Somebody that's ride or die with you. The missing component here is cooperation. If you could have a strong, cooperative person that got your back, that's all any man can ask for. So come on, man, stop all the cap. You could tell that the passport bros in combination with other factors are collectively having a very significant impact on the dating market here in America just by looking at what's being presented and what's not being presented, what's being about and what's not being about. Matter of fact, do me a favor. I should have said this in the beginning of the video, but if this your first time listening to me and one of my rants, please like, share, comment, subscribe. But if you listen to this video in its entirety, do me a favor and let me know in the comments what you see down your timeline of social media, be it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the case may be, where you looking at your peers, people that you know, people that you follow, things of that nature. Let me know what you see, because what I see a lot of brothers traveling and they got these big smiles on their face that I have not seen them have in a long time. When I'm looking at a lot of the younger Western women, unless they're kind of traditionally minded and happily married with families, because I follow those females too, the single ladies that I'm following, they're either looking good by themselves, they all dolled up nice and they going to these expensive places, or I see them out with their girls but they not really with any significant others, or they hanging around with some simps that they don't even want to share who they hanging out with. So with all that being said, man, once again, shout out to the passport bros. Everybody that's having this conversation, I really appreciate that. I'm really enjoying it. I support y'all. I haven't been able to travel since 2019 due to the pandemic in 2020 and me joining the military. I fully support the passport bros, and I'm telling y'all right now, like, any young men at this point that I come across in my personal life that either got their blinders on or they need to expand their horizons, I'm always put that bug in their ear. And this is not just about seeing them chase up behind a bunch of women. This is about getting people to expand their horizons and really get the message out there that, hey, go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it. You feel me? So as always, thank y'all again for listening. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll holler at y'all in the comment section. Peace.